I had a hankering for pork products, so I figured out a way to make some nice pork sliders. And the pulled pork we made out of the slow cooker. So let's get started. We got to make our sauce. And this is 3/4 of a cup of ketchup ish. Of course, then we got to get it out of the measuring mug, which is always the fun part. Next up is, try doing this with a squeeze bottle. It's about 1/3 of a cup of mustard. By the way, it's not that easy. Now that was 1/3 cup of sugar. You can use brown sugar. Now I didn't have any garlic ready, so this is 1.5 tablespoons of garlic powder. And then 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper to give it a little kick. And that is 1/3 of a cup of vinegar. Now after making this, and it's very tasty, if you got it, definitely use the brown sugar. It does give it a little bit of a kick. Now, the original recipe for this barbecue sauce, I pulled out of my cookbooks, and it's a little different than this. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. There are different versions of this particular barbecue sauce. It's a local barbecue sauce, and I added maybe a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and pepper to taste. Got to give it a try just to see. I think we're pretty close. That goes into the fridge. We'll let it set for a couple hours. So here is our pork loin, about 2.5 pounds. Should be enough for the sandwiches we're going to do. We need a rub for this now. So this is a tablespoon of garlic powder, which pretty well stuck in the container, so I had to work on loosening it. Along with that is 1 teaspoon of paprika. This is 1 teaspoon of pepper, 1 teaspoon of salt. We'll mix all that together. All right, let's get over to our pork. And basically, we're gonna put the rub on because we're gonna let it sit. So I sprinkled about half on the top. Just rub that all in as best you can, half on the bottom. I saved a little bit for the sides because, of course, you want to get all of it. So we'll sprinkle just a little bit on the sides, and the rest goes on the rest of the meat. Make sure it's covered at least. Looking good. All right, we're going to take this and cover it up for the next few hours. I just wasn't so sure it was a great idea to leave it just on the baking sheet, so now let's put some parchment paper underneath and kind of wrap it on top ever so gently. I thought about using plastic wrap, but then I was more concerned about sticking to the plastic wrap. So anyway, into the fridge it goes, and we're going to let it sit for at least a couple, 3 hours. I did it overnight. So here we are the next morning, and hey, looks about the same. Let's get into the slow cooker. We'll set up the slow cooker, and then we of course need some stuff to go with it. This is about a cup of chopped onions, and I forgot about this. So I want to get everything ready. I got a couple tablespoons of oil, and into it's going to go You want it medium high. You want to sear the pork on each side. You just want to make sure it's got a sear on each of the sides and the top and bottom. Alright, so we're good. So there's our meat. Let's get the onions. And, you know, listen, you want to put more onions in, go ahead. So there's our roast. It just fit, so I like that. And this, the liquid, is simply just a can of Coke that I poured in. And that's it. On it goes. So this is the halfway point, and I decided to flip it over just because I want to make sure it gets evenly cooked, and I'm sure it will. Here's our buns. I had to slice them all, and we put some provolone cheese on the bottom, and we just got to wait for our pork to finish. It looks pretty good. It shrank a little bit, but I've kind of checked it out. I think we're good to go. It should shred up nice. Now, I got to put it in a bowl only because I don't need all that liquid. Drain the liquid. Let's put the pork back in, and we're going to shred it all now. I've got a couple forks, and we're just going to pull it apart. Oh, you don't want big chunks for this because it is going into sliders. And this is the fun part, shredding it all. Well, it's looking pretty good. I think we're good to go with our sliders. So let's get that done because I'm starting to get hungry with all these yummy smells. But to that, we've got the barbecue sauce. And once again, you put on as much as you want. I wasn't sure how well it was going to cook up in the oven, so I only put about half. And my daughter said, "Oh, you should have put more on." Yeah, absolutely, I should have. I might have even wanted to make more of the barbecue sauce. Because as you can see here, I had to put a little extra on. It just covered up the meat. So if you like it ooey and gooey, you got to make more, put more on. And like I said, I only made half of the recipe for the barbecue sauce. You can make more. So here's the bottom of our sliders. Pull the pulled pork over. And now we're going to carefully get it on each of the buns. I know some's going to slide down, but I'm trying to keep it all together as best I can. This isn't all the meat. I didn't want to go too crazy. It's about good inch and a half worth of pulled pork. And of course, just because, more cheese. And we put all the bun lids back on. And that there is melted butter. That wasn't actually part of the recipe I had, but I wanted it anyway. You know, a quarter stick, half stick of butter, melt it in the microwave, just brush it on the tops. Into the oven it goes. And when it comes out, you can see all that butter's melted into the buns. Let's get a couple of these sliders out. Carefully so I don't burn my hands, because it did just come out of the oven after all. We'll get them on a plate. And check that out. We're in for some good eating. I think they look good. And we made some beans and mashed potatoes to go along with them. So how's that for a good meal? Another great recipe. And I hope you're going to try it. If you do, leave me a comment below. And while you're at it, If you haven't subscribed, give me a subscribe, hit the bell, give me a thumbs up, all that fun kind of stuff. I sure appreciate it. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.